Today's guest is a man of remarkable transformation, a journey that takes him from rigid structure to radical freedom. Scotty grew up homeschooled on a farm under the roof of deeply conservative Christian parents. After graduating from West Point in 2009, he served as a U.S. Army officer until a life-threatening encounter with hypothermia and frostbite changed his trajectory, costing him a few toes, but opening a door to something far deeper. He went on to launch and successfully exit 2 SaaS companies as an entrepreneur, but his true calling led him far from the boardroom. Now based in the jungles of Colombia, Scotty is a modern-day bridge between worlds, combining his military discipline with ancient wisdom. He runs a self-sustaining jungle community focused on preserving indigenous rights and ancestral knowledge, and works with veterans and seekers alike through plant medicine and psychedelic therapies. A retired Army officer turned hippie musician and plant medicine facilitator, Scotty is on a mission to help people heal, awaken, and truly live on their own terms. Please welcome Scotty. How's it going, man?
What's up, brother?
Another day in the world, man. So why don't we start with a little bit of background, man? What brought you to becoming a West Point grad?
Yeah, man. My dad was a military academy grad. So dad was class of 79, uncle was 77, granddad was 46. And then for those that are Army, don't hold this against me, my great granddad was 1917 Naval Academy. So I was a bit of a legacy, but that actually wasn't why I went at all. When I was a kid, I was really involved in the church, and I was on a whitewater rafting trip when I was like, I think 12 or 13. Almost died because the bus was kind of winding up the 1-lane mountain road that we were on in West Virginia, and part of the road collapsed. And so suddenly, like, we're sitting there teetering back and forth on the side of this cliff face. And I was the only kid. I just remember absolutely panicking. And somebody picked me up, I don't remember who, threw me bodily out of the bus. But the thing I really remember that day is my dad was calm under pressure. And even though he was only directly responsible for me, he was the last person off that bus. And I asked him, I was like, what made you develop that sort of strength under pressure, that leadership? He's like, well, I think it was West Point or the Army. It's like, all right, I'll do both of those things, and I'll get that capacity. That's how I ended up at West Point. Got a medical waiver to join up a little bit early, and I needed a medical waiver not only for age, but also because I was like super underweight. I was maybe 135, 140 pounds and 6'1".
Yep. As a matter of fact, I was about the same. My first fight in the Army, I fought. I was like 132. Fought lightweight, 6'1".
Yep, you get it.
Yep, it was a lot of fun until I got my ribs broke. But
oh man,
yeah, I enjoyed it. So you end up. What field did you go into when you came out of West Point?
I was field artillery. Interesting and funny thing about West Point is you usually get to pick branches based off of your class rank. So the higher up you are, the quicker the good branches go.
Yep.
If you're super smart, you might go into intelligence or signal or something like that. If you are really hoorah or hua, whatever the term is, you might go into infantry. I was force branched field artillery because I was pretty dumb. I didn't get. I was a solid C minus average student. And funnily enough, I got put into the branch of the Army that requires the most math. So go figure.
Yeah. Being a gun bunny, man, that's it's an interesting field. I didn't expect that. Yeah, field artillery. First officer I ever met that was field artillery.
Full cord, go boom, baby.
Yep. But I'm going to tell you something. You guys were loved. Call for fire. You guys were loved.
We're useful when you really need us. Yeah.
Yep. So you graduate West Point. You go into, how long were you in the military before you were medically discharged?
3 years as an active officer. So I spent about a year in basic officer leadership course, and then I was up in Alaska for about 2 years. My unit had just gotten back, so we were sort of in a training cycle.
Mhm.
I was part of 5-1 Cavalry out of the first of the 25th Infantry in Alaska. And we were getting ready to deploy, and my squadron commander had promised to send me to Ranger School and to SF selection after we deployed. So my dumbass was out there trying to do long distance snowshoeing to prepare, and I just bit off way more than I could chew. For any military veteran out there, they know you got first lieutenants wandering around land nav courses and have no idea how to look at a map. I was that guy. I got super lost, spent 8 hours out there, nearly died, and lost a couple toes, as you so aptly mentioned in your intro.
Yeah, land nav. Yeah, you know, that is one good side to the field that you got put into. I mean, officers, for the listeners that don't know, it's tough to get promoted. It's a very competition field. Only one person, when they get rated, can be number one. It's not like the NCO Corps where everybody's among the best, and it does make it difficult. So those, I get what you were doing. Those badges is crucial to put you above your peers and to get promoted. So I get why you were out there, because that's not an easy feat. So you're out there in Alaska, and it's, quite the opposite of 80 degrees outside. It's probably 80 below outside. And
It was 40 below.
40 below. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I think once you get past 10, it's just cold. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's interesting. The thing about -40 is it's so cold that the Fahrenheit and Celsius scales match up. Anywhere really below, I think, -20. If you throw a pot of coffee out in the air, it'll freeze before it hits the ground. Like, people don't understand how cold that is. Like,
Yeah.
at -40, if you say get an itch and you like wipe your eyebrows, you'll lose them because they'll break right off.
Wow. That is insane. I've been cold, but I've never been that cold. Yeah.
It's different. This is different.
It is. I've always wanted to go to Alaska, and I never got the opportunity. But
Go in the summer.
well, yeah, but then you got to watch all state birds up there, the mosquitoes.
It's truth. Truth. Go in the summer, bring a baseball bat. If you go in the winter, keep an eye out for my toe.
Yeah, absolutely. So you end up getting medically discharged. What happened? I mean, we're still a long ways away from Colombia.
Yeah. That was a really rough point in my life.
I believe it.
As I mentioned, my dad was extremely conservative Christian. The sort of brand that believes a particular way about the world, and if you don't believe exactly that same way, they won't have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And so I was estranged from my family largely because of religious reasons. You can imagine I'm here as going back a little bit, 17, 18, 19-year-old at West Point, and a couple of people that I know are coming back in body bags. Like, we're in 2 active wars at the moment. And so the idea of mortality becomes a pretty real thing, right? Like, where do I go when I die? And how am I convinced that this is really the thing? I mean, I'm now being exposed for the first time in my life to people with different viewpoints and beliefs, cosmovisions about the world. And because I had drifted away from my faith in the way that my father felt that I should have experienced or believe it, I was cut off from the family. So I'm cut off from my family, and now I'm cut off from the only career that I've ever trained to do, and unexpectedly that. So it gave me a firsthand witnessing of what a lot of our military veterans experience when your identity is cut off unexpectedly. Like, who am I now? Like, I went from, oh, that's Lieutenant Schneider. You really, I think people salute more the rank than the person themselves. You got that butter bar on, or you got a captain bar on, whatever it is, and people are going to salute it. You have automatic respect, but that's not the case in the civilian world. And, like, not only that, but what am I going to do? I'm studied environmental engineering and Russian, for God's sake. I was planning on becoming a career military officer. And not only that, but like, what is the overall direction for my life? So I kind of selected what I would call the default goal for people in the civilian world. We'll get a nice house and a nice car and a nice partner and a job and get into some debt. I did all that, but it wasn't making me happy. And not only that, I was a functional alcoholic as way of covering over the things that I didn't want to deal with in my life. So that lasted about 3 or 4 years, and I'm just a wreck by this point. So I decided, okay, well, if that's not working, well, maybe I'll become an entrepreneur. Well, I did that, and then I created 2 successful companies, and that wasn't making me happy either. And I realized something that I had no idea about was money just magnified the problems that I had personally.
Yep.
And so now I was like, okay, well, I'm damn out of options here. Like, what the hell am I going to do? So I end up moving to Medellin, Colombia. I'm traveling around a little bit at this point, going to different, I went to Mexico a little bit, went to Puerto Rico a little bit. I landed in Colombia, and for the first time in my life, I felt, I can't really explain it more than that. And I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that are just happy. Like they've got wonderful family networks and relationships, and it's beautiful here all the time. It's like springtime all year round, and I'm still unhappy. And that was when it finally hit me. I was like, okay, dude, if I'm unhappy here and I'm unhappy everywhere I've been for the last 15 years and everything I've tried, I'm probably the problem. And so it was a really close friend of mine, a cavalry scout, Jonathan, another veteran, that said, dude, you should try ayahuasca and these ancestral medicines. I was like, man, that's some hippie nonsense, dude. But no way in hell, no way in hell I'm doing that. But he insisted, and I was going through divorce, my first marriage at the time. Is like, all right, fine. Nothing else is working, so I'll do it. And that's what really opened my eyes. And it didn't heal me in the sense that I thought it would. It just gave me perspective, and it also showed me that, look, man, stop trying to give your power away. Start taking responsibility for your own life. Figure out what's going wrong, figure out what's going right, and fix it. I was like, okay. And that's what I started to do. And now, lo and behold, 6 or 7 years later, I'm waking up happy in the morning, which I never thought I'd get to.
I've had a lot of people, I haven't personally tried it myself, but I've had a lot of people talk about the successes that they've had. And I know Sean Ryan is a big supporter of it. He talks about it on his podcast quite a bit. The way it was explained to me was that the brain is like a ball of yarn just wadded up. And these are all your ties and everything else. And what this medicine does is it loosens those ties up to allow you to get out of that loop of thinking the same way and being negative and making negative things happen. Would you say that's pretty close to what's happening?
That is a way to describe it. It's a very complex sort of thing. And I would say that's sort of a medical Western way to describe it. So neurologically speaking, it does increase brain plasticity. It creates connections and loosens things up. But I think that anyone that has experienced the medicine itself will probably agree and say it's spirit. It's an entity. Like, I don't know exactly how you could describe this. Like having a doctor inside your head and soul. And the things that it shows you and the ways that it works with you is nothing short of miraculous. And I've never met a single person who took the medicine and disagreed with me on that. Could be wrong, but I'm still waiting. It's hard to describe from a purely rational perspective. But if somebody was looking for just a rational explanation, that is a good way to put it.
Okay, so I know a lot of times this medicine is taken kind of ceremonial, usually a place of solitude, and quite. Do you think that plays a big part of it?
It does, for 2 reasons. The first reason is that this is a very powerful medicine. So sort of like they don't give antibiotics over the counter. They don't give chemo drugs over the counter. That's kind of like this. If you use it incorrectly, it can damage or maybe even kill you. Don't do that, please. So like, I wouldn't recommend experimenting with this. You don't want to give the keys to nuclear power plants to toddlers. you know?
Right.
So the ceremonial aspect helps people try this and experience a very powerful healing modality in a very safe way. There are people that have died by taking ayahuasca on their own, and there have been people that have died by taking ayahuasca with providers that don't know what they're doing. On a chemical level, there are contraindications, meaning the ayahuasca chemicals themselves produce a tremendous amount of serotonin in the body. So if you're, say, on antidepressants like serotonin, I think it's SSRIs, selective serotonin receptor inhibitors, that the purpose of those drugs effectively make it difficult for the body to process serotonin. So if you take that drug at the same time you take ayahuasca and get a lot of serotonin in the body, you can die from what's called serotonin syndrome, which is not a good way to go. So there are medical considerations to take into account. There are also spiritual and energetic, which is what I believe, things to take into account as well. And then beyond all that, it is a very challenging and difficult thing to experience. And so it's very useful to have people around you that can support you and guide the experience in a way that you get something useful out of it and aren't just scared out of your mind for hours on end.
And that's, that's the odd part, because serotonin is made from happiness, right? That's what when the brain, when you find something that you like or it makes you happy, that's a serotonin release, right?
Yeah. So I guess maybe happiness makes serotonin, or both. But yeah,
Right. But
that's
it's how, this drug brings a lot of serotonin, and you said that some people are frightened when they're using it. Is that because of the trauma that's inside them that they're now having to deal with, or is it something else?
well, that's a huge part of it. And when I say that, I'm not saying that every person that takes ayahuasca is going to be frightened, right? Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you're just having a wonderful time and you're in pure bliss in heaven. Sometimes you're in pure hell, and sometimes both. Sometimes you're hot and cold at the same time. Sometimes you're happy and scared. It could be anything and everything. And usually the experience varies every time you take it, even if you're taking the same medicine under the same conditions with the same person. It's very, very difficult to predict what the experience will be. It's impossible to predict what the experience will be. And usually, what people that take it find out is that the medicine gives you exactly what you need to experience when you need to experience it. And that includes things that are difficult for you to process. So it's like kind of the difference between Western healing and indigenous healing. Western medical healing will be like, you come into the doctor and you're like, Doc, I got a headache. Like, what's he going to do? Probably hand you some Advil. Here you go.
Yep.
Let's treat the symptom. The indigenous will say, hey, have you tried drinking some water? Similar to what a holistic doctor will do. And so the primary purpose of the medicine is to show you things that you need to deal with and give you perspectives on that. So let's just say that you're dealing with some severe trauma like PTSD, or a time you were locked in a firefight for 3 days. You probably don't want to go back there. You spend most of your time avoiding it.
Yep.
It might take you back there, but in a way to allow you to heal that and move past it. I had a buddy of mine, in fact, my best friend, one of his cousins was a Marine, a mail clerk in Afghanistan that got shot down in a Chinook, I think, and spent 3 days in a firefight. And he was tremendously traumatized from that. Lots of PTSD, night sweats, couldn't sleep, anger issues, the whole 9 yards. Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, Scotty, can you talk to this guy? Because he's scared of taking the medicine. So they're all right, cool, man. Hey, come on down by the fire. Like, what's going on? Tell me about the effect that this is having on your life. So he told me about all the laundry list of symptoms that he was going through. Okay, cool. Do you want to keep experiencing that? He's like, no, it's wrecking my life. He's like, but you're scared of the medicine. He's like, yeah, I don't know if what it's gonna do. We're like, well, look, man, real simple. Do you want to continue with the negative symptoms and challenges and wrecking your life that you just told me about? Or do you want to face your fears and see if you can get past it? It took me 30 seconds. He's like, oh, that's it? All right, I'm in. He took with us that night, had a wonderful experience. That's really the only decision. And it's not saying that everybody has to take ayahuasca or that it would work for everybody, but it is to say that I think a lot of times we are not willing to face our fears because we're
Yeah.
not looking at it in the way of, I'm making a decision. If I'm not choosing to pursue healing, I'm making a decision to stay sick.
Yeah.
Choice.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the powerful side of depression is it likes to keep you in that loop of there is no way out of this. It is hopeless, and there is no light. The only light you're
Yep.
seeing is the train that's coming to run your ass over.
Yep.
And you know, once you accept that, well, now you're on the last step before you take your life.
Yeah.
And so I do get it. The VA is no help. There's not no directory that says, hey, these are your benefits and this is what you qualify. Call us. There's no, there's more liquor commercials than there is VA how to get your benefits ads. And it's unfortunate because there is a lot of great things and it does cause people to self-medicate. I think that's a lot of where the addiction side comes from, is them grasping at straws, trying to get some help. And I know, I think it's LSD that they're, or is it Molly? One of the two that they're supposedly
MDMA.
DMA.
MDMA is the one that's currently going through, I believe there's legislation in Congress to approve that for veterans, as well as psilocybin therapy.
Yep. Yeah. And I can only imagine, how expensive that's going to be. I'm sure Big Pharma is involved and everything else with it.
Well,
So,
hopefully not. If it's pushed through MAPS, they're, I believe, their own MDMA distributor.
okay. So down there in Colombia, your bio says that you work with indigenous people. Do they also? I'm sure they use this same plant medicine for themselves as well. What are they using it for? Is it the same things that we are using it for?
Yeah, so it depends on what tribe you're talking about. I work with a lot of different tribes. So typically, ayahuasca is used by the tribes in the Amazon basin. So that includes Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil. Those are generally the primary use cases, at least traditionally, for ayahuasca. But many different tribes use a lot of different medicines. So some people use coca leaves, some people use tobacco, some people use other Amazonian trees like, say, yopo, which is a DMT containing snuff. There are a bazillion amount of medicines, and some tribes don't use any medicine at all. For example, the Kogi and the Wiwa, the Wiwa I work with, I've actually got two families of them living out in my jungle community. They meditate in caves for years on end. That's their medicine. So it really depends on what tribe you're dealing with that determines what medicine you're using.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, because I guess I had a different opinion. I'm picturing TV. I'm over here. I've never been to Colombia, and I was just picturing more like this stuff is being controlled by a tribal doctor and handing it out by prescription. But I know it's at a much simpler basis than that. But
Well, it's like it's very difficult to describe how the medicine is used. We live with it and we work it. I say we because I'm effectively, like, I've actually been adopted by an indigenous tribe by virtue of marriage to my wife, who can trace her lineage to said tribe. And I live in a community in the jungle where we take this medicine to learn about life, to heal and protect our children, to recover from our trauma, and to grow as people. And so for us, it's like most Westerners will maybe come down to Colombia and take the medicine once in their entire lifetime. They take it a couple times a week. And it's not saying that everybody has to do that, but I'm on a particular path to help spread this medicine and help heal people through its use. And so I take a little bit more than your average bear.
yeah, I mean, I think that was one thing that Sean Ryan also talked about, was how he holds this medicine with a lot of respect, and he takes it not recreationally. He takes it,
Mhm.
you know, he made it sound like once a quarter, or 3 or 4 times a year. He does what he does. So how is, when you're working with these tribes, what does that mean? Are you talking about just with ayahuasca, or is there other things that you're doing with them?
Yeah, I work with quite a few tribes. So with the Witoto or the Mori tribe, they are more Amazonian. I work with the medicines of coca, so Madre Coca, which is a very sacred plant to us. It's what cocaine is made out of. Cocaine to us is sort of like well, not sort of, it is a absolute blasphemy. It's a real bastardization, a tremendously awful twist on what is for us a very sacred plant. So we work with coca and the medicine of tobacco. With the Siona tribe, they are my primary instructors for ayahuasca. I work with the Wiwa tribe to learn more about nature and for permaculture and to learn about the animals and communicate with the plants. I do temescals, which is more of a northern tradition. They're like sweat lodges. So if anyone, like for example, in our country, the Lakota, many of the indigenous tribes, First American peoples, they do sweat lodges, they do vision quests. So that's a 4-day, 4-night, no food, no water fast alone. I do that. I do that every year. And we do things like moon dances and sun dances. So there's a lot of different tribal practices and traditions that I follow. What we're trying to do is have every person find what works for them. And I'm just absolutely excited to wake up every day and learn more about different indigenous peoples and how we can help them, and more importantly, how we can bring their ancestral wisdom into everyday life here in the modern world.
And that's what I was just getting ready to ask was, it sounds like there's so much that we could learn from them. And I think a lot of outsiders have a different thought process that we need to go in and teach them. But I think it's the other way around. To be honest, I think, our way has obviously created some problems. America's not the country that it was envisioned anymore. And I think from the sounds of it, these people are living basic and happier than rich people over here.
I'd say that's in general correct. Most people, most that are living this way are happier. But I think it's also important not to idolize any particular one group. I think the idea is like, well, is Western medicine better or is indigenous medicine better? I would say probably neither. I think it's its approach to both of them in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
What tool fits the solution best, right? Not everybody wants to live in the middle of the jungle like I do and running around barefoot and dirty. That's okay. Find what makes you happy and find what balance that is. So it's not like, oh, we should follow the indigenous and become just like them. No,
Right.
no. But we do need, I think, to respect all different styles and wisdoms, because I think it's incredibly arrogant to say, well, we're more advanced technologically, so we know. Like, no, you're not. You're sick, unhappy, and can't sleep at night. So
Yep.
come at me, bro.
Yep. Oh, you're 100% correct. Yeah, and that's exactly that. 2018 was prime time to if you can't realize that America's got a mental health crisis, how did the politics and presidents running cause the uproar that it caused between people? I mean, people wanted to believe whatever side they were on was saying, no matter what, and it became a war against people.
But has it really been different than that for as long as you or I can remember?
I think
maybe it hasn't been this bad.
it wasn't as publicized. That could be a part of it, and that just goes to show that we're no longer thinking past logic, and we're going with emotion, and that's exactly what happens with PTSD. You start believing that you are a piece of shit. You start believing that you can't do anything right. Nobody wants you. I'd be better off dead. And these lines just go on and on until you either get help or you take your life. That's where it ends. It's one of those others. And I think it's important that in order for it to work the way you was explaining, you would have to eliminate the greed of money, because the Western side, that's what it's all about.
I
With the
agree with you there. But it's not to say that like we need to give up our entire lives and become hippies in the woods,
no,
or communists either. Again, everything in balance,
yep,
right? Money is useful. It's a medium of exchange, and I have to feed my family. So
yep.
whether I grow that or get money to do that to put food on the table, I guess it doesn't really matter. When you
And I,
talked about like, oh, you're taking your life because you're concerned about what other people think of you, like, yeah, I guess it's foreign to me because these days I don't care what other people think about me. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing, and I'm living free and happy. And I think it's very difficult to explain what that's like to someone that hasn't never experienced that before. And when you're in the depths of that depression, it's difficult to even understand that there's a way out. And that's why I really love the work that you're doing in exposing different stories of veterans. That's what I'm doing as well. I'm talking to as many veterans as I can because I don't care if you come down to the jungle and take ayahuasca or if you heal through therapy or through church or through AA. All I want is for our veterans, our brothers and sisters to know that there are people out there who have healed and resonate with one or more of us so they can find the help they need.
yeah, and I think you know that philosophy, it would work great with putting a lot of stuff. I mean, look, psychedelics, really got a bad rep when we were talking about other drugs, and they just kind of combined everything and made it, what is it? Made it a Schedule 1, I think it is,
Mhm.
drug, preventing anybody from learning. That's really what it did. Is hindered our research on what it could be doing, and we're just years behind in that aspect, and it is slowly changing. And the part I was talking about with money was the fact that I see good people inside the VA that are taking care of people, but their hands are tied because they can't use this drug because they have to use this drug, and that's all tied to money. And it should be exactly what you said. What is it that is going to make you healthier, happier, and put you on the right path?
Mm.
Regardless whether that's uh, you know a antidepressant from big pharma or ayahuasca. It's not about pushing any one thing. It's about,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
and I do agree with you. It could be worked in controlled environments. It could be integrated in hand with some of the other Western studies that's happened. And I really do wish they would make it available to people, because there is a lot of people out there that could benefit from this, but can't afford to leave the country to experience it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you put it another way, can you afford not to?
And
And so when that's the case, like you always figure out how to put food on the table, how to put a roof over your head. And if this is that big a deal to you, then I think it's time that we take healing in our own hands,
yeah,
like many of us did. Okay, fine. I'm not going to wait around for somebody to tell me this is approved or not. I'm going to go find out healing for myself. And I think it's the road to healing always starts with a acceptance of your own responsibility to fix your own life. Nobody's going to do it for you.
yeah,
And the more that you point the finger away at somebody else and give your power away and blame, well, you're not going to move anywhere quick. So it's just like the same thing I talk to everybody. Do you want to stay sick and unhappy and not well? If so, keep blaming everybody else. And that includes the VA. Look, they're doing the best that they can.
yep,
Or maybe they're not. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
right.
You are responsible for your own life. And like people hate hearing that. Like, what do you mean? How cruel? It's
No,
true.
and what you were describing is exactly the kind of the path that I have observed from myself and other guests. You go from not even knowing what PTSD is, then to learning, oh, you have PTSD and these are your symptoms, and then to, oh, that's not my fault, I have PTSD, and that
Exactly.
card starts coming out, And then you get tired of the medicine, you get tired of doing those things, and you decide, I'm going to get healed. I'm going to start thing. And you get to that big ball that you just mentioned of dealing with everything, because part of that is one, recognizing that you were the problem, recognizing why you were the problem, making amends with the things that you did. Yes, you're suffering from an illness, but you still did these things, you know, and those are all different for each person. And that is where the healing process takes. And that is scary because you have to be judged again.
It's scary, but also incredibly freeing because, in some sense, yes, you are the problem, but you're also the solution.
Yep.
The medicine of ayahuasca isn't what's fixing you. You're the medicine. The medicine is inside you. And it doesn't matter if you get there by meditation or church or friends or therapy or the wonderful traditions of the indigenous. You fix yourself. That's the only way. The only real ceremony is the ceremony of real life. And ayahuasca is going to point you in the right direction, but you're going to have to do the work. And if you don't do the work, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's brutal and simple.
Yep. Yeah. And I agree with everything you just said. It's at the end of the day, you have to put in the work to get there. And it doesn't hurt to also do like what you just said, not give a crap about what anybody else thinks. Put that aside for a while so you can focus on yourself and move forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the simple way to look at this. So what advice would you give a veteran? Let's say, you're talking to a veteran that's in the States and whatever. And it's not that you can't find the drug in America, you can get it here too. But what is your advice when you're talking to somebody, like, do you listen to their problems and then you say, well, this is what this would do for you, or you could try this? What is your approach?
Generally, it is first, let's talk and figure out what you're struggling with, what your background is, and what your intuition is in terms of going about solving it. So the approach is going to be different. Everybody's in place A and they want to get to place B, right? The place B matters. I don't know where you want to go. So where do you want to go first? And then how do you want to get there? Are you absolutely dead set against psychedelics? Okay, let's explore some other ways. So I'm going to treat each person on a case-by-case basis. I think it absolutely has to be that way. And then I would suggest that people keep an open mind. Like, if you're trying to fix this on your own and it's not working, well, be open to things that you haven't tried before or that you've initially rejected. Just keep an open mind.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And don't be too rigid or strict about anything. Don't be too stuck in your own ways of doing things or judging. Like, for example, I could easily say, though, ayahuasca works for everybody and it's the only way to heal. That's, generally speaking, I've never met a person that's happy, truly happy, that was rigid about many things at all.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So I want to get into it for a second. I know that term microdosing has been thrown around a lot lately. It's kind of seemed like a buzzword. Is this also something that you could do it that way as well? If for somebody that is afraid of the upfront effects?
You could, but I don't recommend it. First of all, I'm trying not to be, I don't want to be too harsh, because I'm a very brash, blunt person, and I'm just going to say, look, you're afraid of a night of something. Again, it goes back to, do you really want to heal? Yeah. And if you really want to heal, you're foaming at the mouth and you're willing to do anything to make that happen. So if you're scared and kind of want to dip your toe in, you want to microdose, I don't think you're ready yet. And the second thing is that microdosing treats these very powerful ancestral medicines a bit like Advil. I'll just take a little bit of ayahuasca, just take a little bit of mushrooms. It's something I do. You get into the habit of it. And I think that in order for real healing to occur, you need to get your soul knocked right the fuck out of your body, to be blunt about it.
Yeah.
You know, let's go. Like, I am all in, no holds barred, not tiptoeing around it. I'm here to do some work. And
And I
when you
think,
come with that attitude, then you're going to experience something good.
yeah, I think that right there is what it is I think the people aren't afraid of the drug, because I'm sure that the majority of the people that you deal with doesn't really truly know the effects or how it's done or any of that stuff.
Mhm.
What they're afraid of is they know that the drug is going to make them deal with something that they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's
You're already dealing with something you don't want to deal with.
right. But you're masking it, you're not truly
Yes.
dealing with it. But it is never going to go away that way either,
No, it's kind of like, you just brought up, I actually talking to you about this, I came up with a new analogy I'd like to use. Most of us in the military are trained in how to clear a room,
Mhm.
right? So you're clearing a room and you want to microdose it because you're not really sure you want those people out of that room. So you're like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, is anybody in there? Yeah, we're here. Fuck off. Well, would you guys please leave? I'll throw in a flashbang. If that doesn't work, I'll just leave and come back tomorrow. No, you're kicking down that door, hit them
Yeah.
with a demolition charge, throw in a grenade, and destroy absolutely everything in the room.
Yeah.
That's the difference, you know?
That makes perfect sense. I think every veteran listening to this can that.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, I think so. So, how would somebody, in your advice, right?
Mhm.
You recommend that they look for somebody outside the United States so the pressure of doing it illegally is
Mhm.
gone.
Yes.
And I think that also gives you the ability to be present in the moment,
Mhm.
because
Yep.
your mind is not on, was that a cop? Who's that? What's that? You know?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so how do you recommend somebody find somebody that is reputable? Because you did say earlier,
Mhm.
that there is people that don't know what they're doing, that's trying to sell this service.
Yep.
How does somebody find somebody?
Well, part of a way to help this process along for veterans and for anyone else that's listening to this, even if you're not a veteran, I've created a full course on what to look for, the effects of the chemicals, the spiritual significance, where to find reputable centers. So that's available on my website, okoyai.com, as well as a book I wrote for veterans and a standalone veterans course, all of which is free. It is there for the community, for the veteran community, and for those that want to learn more about the medicine. And I'm open. I will hop on a call with you. My wife's a medical doctor. So if you need advice or pointers, she can cover you. Like, we exist here to help point people in the right direction. So look us up, find us, send us an email, drop me a line, call me, send me a text or a WhatsApp. I've dedicated my life to the service of this medicine and to healing people in general. So I'm here to help. And there are others like me.
Yeah, and you brought up another point, with your book and the website and everything else. You're giving these people the opportunity to make a conscious decision with some education.
Yes.
So I think that is another positive thing that somebody was looking for. Does the website look like a sales pitch, or does the website look like this person truly believes in what their product is and what they're talking about?
Mhm.
What realistically, what do you think the cost is for somebody to go through this? What can they look at if they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to go to Colombia and do
Mhm.
this"? Obviously, they got the plane ride and everything else. What all costs would they be looking at?
Sure. Well, it depends on what sort of experience you're looking for. If you want to go to a high-end luxury ayahuasca retreat where you've got your feet kicked up by the pool and organic meals served to you, I wouldn't recommend that, by the way, because again, you're here to work, not to have a vacation.
Yeah.
You can expect to spend 5 or 10 grand for a week, or sometimes even more than that. If you go somewhere in the States, it's going to be at least 3 to 4 grand, typically even for a weekend. So I'm sure there are exceptions to that, but it can get very expensive. If you're going outside of the country, it typically is a little bit more economical. So Colombia is about 3 or 4 hours away from Miami, so it's not that far away. You can spend a couple $100, maybe $400 or $500 for plane tickets. And then when you get here, you can spend as much money as you want. But we have priced what we do at a very reasonable price. It's around 2 grand, meals included, lodging included, everything included for a week, 4
Oh, wow.
ceremonies.
Yeah.
And so we're here not to become millionaires. We're here to scale the work that we're doing. We also have to feed our family, and we feel that 2 grand is a reasonable investment in a understanding of the sacred idea of reciprocity, meaning we've spent our lives to dedicate to this, and we got to send our kids to college. I've implemented something that I've never seen before, which is a rock solid guarantee. That is, if you spend the money to come down here, you spend a week with us, and you put in the work, and you can't look me in the eyes and say, Scotty, this experience has absolutely changed my life, I will not only refund your money, I will pay for your flight tickets. You won't lose a damn thing. And I'm
Wow.
that confident in what I do and the medicine that we serve and the effect that we have on people. So if you can find the guarantee like that anywhere, let me know, but I'm not aware of anyone else on the market.
Yeah, I doubt they're going to find that. And again, you have to ask yourself how much, even if you're using TRICARE, how are you going to spend for a lifetime of having to see a psychiatrist to get your medicine? Because if there's no psychiatrist, there's nobody prescribing. And
Yeah.
So how long does it take to eat up 2 grand doing that? 6
Or
months.
how long does it take to eat up 2 grand and a couple binge nights out of the bar because
Yeah.
you're unhappy with your life? Or what is the cost of a failing marriage to you? What's the cost of not really getting to know your kids? Because it's just, it goes on and on.
Right.
The financial investment of a healthy and happy life is essentially priceless. But the cost to getting that sort of treatment doesn't have to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
look, at the end of the day, if there is somebody that knocks on my door and says, I need this, I can't afford it, I will find out whatever way I can to do to get you here. I'm not going to turn anyone away because of lack of payment. We will figure out a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it goes both ways. Just like you said, you've got to put in the work as well.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to just come up to you and give it to you and say, we're going to do all this for you and you're going to be good.
Yeah. And if you did, they wouldn't value it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put some skin in the game. But if you're showing me like you're going to put in the work, like when I run ceremonies here, if people can't even donate $5, I don't care. Bring me a hug, bring me a prayer, bring me a banana.
Yep.
I believe in the law of the universe in terms of I'm helping people, and help will come to me when I need it as well. I am living in abundance. I have what I need.
Yep. I completely agree. And I believe, faith is one of those pillars in life that you have to have, whether you call that energy or God or whatever you call it, you have to have faith in something. So I do believe that that is true. So I'm going to bring you forward and give the opportunity for you to tell everybody where they can follow you at, and you can give them your website again. I'll make sure all the links are in the bottom, and when we do the editing, I'll even throw them up there and your book.
Appreciate it, man.
And make sure that everybody sees and can get to where they need to be.
Yeah, thank you. You can find me at Okoyai. That is OCOYAI.com. And that includes the book, the courses that we're launching. It includes a free medicine music school. If you want to learn how to play guitar, we've got 8,000 people in there learning along with you. All that's free. So come on down and experience what life is like with us, or learn more about us. And I'm happy to talk to you. So just hit me up and we'll find time to talk.
All right. Well, if you don't mind holding on, I'm going to throw the old exit video out. And
Absolutely, man.
With it. Y'all take care. Thanks for listening. don't forget, if you're looking for help, hit the link down there and be open-minded and give it a shot. We will talk to you all later.